Once I have my pattern traced from the original and I've reduced it down to two of the square segments because I've taken everything from the other segments and copied it so that the two matched. Now I've got just two that are going to make a continuous tile. I'm going to select both of those. I'm going to verify that it's 5 by 10 by opening up my transform palette and looking at the width and the height. And then I'm going to go to Object, Pattern, and make the pattern, which is like defining a pattern. And it's going to save it to the swatches palette. It automatically puts me into pattern editing mode. If I wanted to get out of that, I could click on Done. If I want to get back into it, I'm going to locate that swatch, double click it, and come into editing mode. If I want to save that swatch and then make changes to a new one, I want to first go to the drop down on the swatches palette and duplicate the swatch. So now I have my original and I have my new swatch. So I'm going to double click on that one and make changes to that one. That way I can always come back to my original and start over if I've made any errors. My pattern options palette automatically comes up. You can also always get that under Windows pattern options. The first thing I want to do is set my grid. It's going to be a brick by column, and the brick offset is going to be a 1/4 of an inch. So that should get me fairly close to seeing how the extensions that I put in here on the handmade pattern should line up. You have the option to dim or reveal at 100% the tiled out copies. The double tile that I have here that's within the blue box is the only one that can actually be edited. So I like to keep it dimmed down a little bit so that I can see it. I'm going to also show you how you can have the option to remove the tile edge temporarily and remove the dim copies so that you can see the whole pattern. Now this black box that is here, that is the actual artboard size that would print out on my final tiling. So I'm going to put my dim and my show tile edges back on. And then I'm going to zoom in. And the first thing I want to do is put in my, actually before I put in my background color, I actually have a background. I'm going to take that out because it's going to make it a little bit easier for me to do my edits. And I can see right away that my, my tile has some issues going from side to side. So I can zoom in on those areas where it's slightly misaligned. And this is the area that I can edit. So if I zoom in a little bit further on that, I can grab onto one of these endpoints and pull it out. Now in order to drop this down, I'm going to have to move to the other side of the tile to drop it down. So I'm just going to move down here a little bit. And in this one, I want to get rid of that line segment. So one way to do it is to click off of it, and then if you click right on the middle of the line, you can't tell, but it's actually selected that segment, so if I hit delete, it removes it. Then I'm going to grab onto an endpoint and pull it directly up. And I can even go over a little bit. Now I'm going to zoom out, and this little triangle here, I'm going to find it on my half drop over on the other side. And you'll see that already the changes I made on the other side with these extending across are already in place. I'm going to delete this other line segment. Come down here and do the same thing. So you notice I click off of it and then I click just on that segment. Now my line is disappearing because I actually have a white fill. I can see that by looking at my tool palette. So I'm going to click on the white and give it no fill, and that will get me my line visible again. I'm going to take this whole thing and slide it down just a little bit. Change my preferences, my keyboard increments. Make it a little bit slower. And then I would zoom in and noodle any detailing that I need by clicking off of it and then clicking on the endpoints with the white arrow and getting them until they line up with the other side. Looks like I have an extra line here somewhere. Now if I want to see if that truly lines up, I can temporarily turn off the dimming and I can preview it. So I would probably come back in and noodle that a little bit more, but for right now I'm going to move on. So the next thing I'm going to do after I've fixed all of my alignments is I can add elements, and now that you're in pattern editing mode, you can actually add them across tiles. So let's say I wanted to connect this unit to this unit. If I draw a line there, notice that it shows up on the tiled out versions. And anywhere that I do editing, it will update everywhere else. So you can add some detailing into this. The main difference is that this is going to translate out. It's not going to do the glide reflect. So you really want to have design the glide reflect by hand first.